Delegation without control is actually called anarchy. You don't learn social behavior or leadership by yourself. Just by reading it doesn't make you a great leader.
You only learn if you get backlash or negative feedback. You only grow through that, huh?
Try to work with young people and train them or educate them in your leadership style. And then you've got all the foundations for a great company.
If you were the CEO of Strava, do you think it would be smart to just implement some physical touchpoints? Alex, why do you come to LA so often?
Well, we actually bought a company recently, a year ago. That was Eden Speakerman, a very well-renowned brand consultancy in Germany. And they had a US office, and it was always our dream to expand to the US. And now we have the opportunity, and it's a hard job, I may say.
And now you have a good excuse to fly once a month to Los Angeles.
Absolutely. It's not the worst city to fly to, and not the worst city to be in. It has probably super great like restaurants, and I really enjoy it, but I obviously hate the flying.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the job, right?
Yeah, I'm probably the only senator frequent flyer actually who gained the status in economy.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. So guys, welcome to New Trend Society, the podcast. We have Alex Trommen here, CEO of Appsfactory, the biggest German studio for app development, design, and a lot more. I mean, in the group, you guys have way more sub companies. We're gonna talk about that later. But yeah, so happy to have you out here. How did you spend your last days here?
I spent the days with a couple of clients, but I also have to admit, after 5 o'clock, I really lived a bit the LA vibes and did a lot of sightseeings, but also tried to discover as many new restaurants as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you still haven't joined me at Venice Run Club. I really want to have you.
Believe it or not, I have the T-shirt in my suitcase actually.
Oh, okay.
But as I had shoulder surgery, I tried to run actually just before flying out to LA and didn't really feel well. So I want to train a bit before we run together.
Train and then show off.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to basically run too slow. So I want you to run away.
That's cool. So how did this come, like this dream, like you guys wanted to do business in the US? Was Germany or Europe just saturated?
I think any company, like any digital agency, can still continue to grow for the next 10, 20 years. Even at our size, we're about 500 now in the group in terms of staff, full-time staff. But I think the US is the biggest market for software and for digital agencies. So we just looked for a new challenge. We are, as you mentioned, by far the largest specialized agency for app development in Germany. Now, we were looking for the next frontier, and the next frontier is actually the US. And although I may say it's very difficult actually to enter the US market for anybody from...
Yeah. You once said it's if you go to the US, it's easy to make the first million in revenue, but it's very tough to scale from then.
Yeah, I spoke to many entrepreneurs who are in the digital agency business, who try to move into the US and build operations. And often you come with a client or you meet a client, so which is probably good for the first million. Or two, and then you realize that there's a lot of fluctuations. Your CEO leaves, then all the relationship goes with the CEO. Actually, what nobody knows, in California, you are actually allowed to take clients with you, even if you leave your employer.
Oh,
so there's it's not like in Germany where you can actually legally pursue the people leaving and where they have non-compete clauses. Yeah. Non-compete clauses are totally illegal in California. So then ultimately what happens in many cases is the head of sales or CEO or whoever actually takes the clients with him, and then you realize you start again. So getting from 1 million or 2 to 10 million, most of the people I met said you have to do acquisitions. You have to come to a certain size.
What do you think is another way to grow besides acquisitions?
That's a very good question. Hiring the golden nugget sales guy or so. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, you have some really good talent out here in LA, right? With Perry, the CEO of Eden Speakerman, he's coming to our poker night every now and then. He's a champ, at least on the poker table.
And he's a judge on the Emmys now. So no, sorry, the Grammys, not the Emmys.
Is he? Oh wow!
Yeah. He's been a musician. In the 80s, he had a relatively famous band. I think it was called Figures on the Beach, to make some promo for him.
Okay, wow.
And now he's on the board of the awards, and he's making some. So you can make a vote. There's plenty of people who are allowed to vote. So we're not talking about 10. We're rather talking about 1,000 or 2,000. But still,
I would be on the jury if somebody would ask me.
Yeah, I don't understand why we're not yet working for the music industry, but.
Yeah. So Alex, take us back to when you started. You had a company with Appsfactory right now with your 2 co-founders. But how did it all start?
Actually, it all started when I looked for a new venture. And through a lot of coincidences, I met my 2 co-founders, Rolf and Roman, who at the time in 2009, I think in 2006, they were still studying at the university. And they were probably, and I think there's some proof in the pudding, the first ones who actually invented ever a GPS tracking. They combined a T-Mobile MDA with a GPS receiver.
So it was like 2008?
That was they actually started this in 2005.
Okay.
And but as they were students, they were obviously not able to invest much time nor money into the product. And in 2008, actually, Nokia came out with the first competitor product. I met them in 2009, and it was clear. So either they or we now found a company and really invest into the product, or they will be outrun by the competition. So we actually founded Appsfactory as a product company, as it was called SmartRunner and SmartRunner GmbH. And we were actually relatively successful. We had about 100,000 users in the first year, 500,000 in the second, and 1 million in the third year. But remember, flashback, it was 2009, 2010, 2011. So nobody paid actually for the app. There was no subscriptions.
And it was also pre-Strava. There was no Strava, no Runtastic, no Nike running, no Adidas running.
Runtastic actually found it almost similar to us.
Yeah.
And they actually outnumbered us in users by some affiliate network that even by today, I haven't found out who that actually is. So maybe the guy discloses to me once, but
basically the mindset of the people who used apps was like, oh, everything is free.
Absolutely.
You as a software company got to figure out how to make your money, and most of the time it was via ads, right?
And what we didn't realize at the time was actually running apps is a very bad idea to make money on advertising. Do you see why?
Because you have your phone in your pocket?
That's
and
definitely
you just
the point.
Started or so?
You just started, and then you look at it when you finish your run. So basically, you've got 2 ad impressions at an entire run of 30 minutes. Compare this to a game where you have so many screens, or any like a news app where on average you probably read 5 to 10 articles.
Yep.
So you have far more ad impressions. So the advertising model definitely doesn't work for any running or sports app.
How much money can you make on an app right now? Like, how much do people spend?
Well, I think anything below €5 on a monthly average is a price point that you can easily take. And a lot of people, and you will get a lot of subscribers. The bad thing is, in the old days, when the App Store was really driven by new apps, you had the chance of being an independent developer and going up the ranks and really making millions in a relatively short time. Nowadays, the App Store and the marketing behind it is very much driven by the large players like Disney.
Oh, okay.
So it's become very, very difficult.
What changed?
I think Apple just got a bit greedy. They introduced advertising into the App Store, and they changed the style of the App Store from a pure ranking into a kind of like moderated or curated store. And that changed the logic that if something really goes up the ranks, the algorithm in the old days.
So there's no virality or so?
It's very difficult to actually become visible through a viral hit like you can become in YouTube if your video gets a lot of clicks or views. And I think this is a bit the problem, which makes the store boring, because the editorial team tends to always display the latest whatever major release of a game or whatever.
I mean, back then, when I got my first iPhone, I was actually in the app store, like discovering new apps. And I feel like the discovery is more or less now like, let's say I'm doing my pilot's license right now. So there's like 2 or 3 apps you need, and then a person or the instructor or somebody tells you like, oh, you got to get ForeFlight, which is like the number 1 player there. It's amazing. It's an amazing app. You see all the maps there and all the layers, and you see the wind and turbulences, and you can read the weather and all that. I love it, but it's also expensive. It's like it's $240 per year. So and I think that's with a discount. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah, but it's probably not even the gas you spend on a single flight. So, I mean, if you take it in comparison,
True.
I agree. It's probably, and you're the exact example, thinking like digital products in general. That's probably the issue. People don't really see the value of a digital product because you can't touch it and you cannot move it, and it's not visible. It's not like a table or something else, or even like a flight lesson. But behind it, there's a lot of APIs that probably get connected by this guy, and then to be safe, you have to do a lot of quality assurance and that kind of stuff. And
True. Yeah. But let's take one of my favorite apps, Strava. As you also were in that running space, and we got to go back to your initial story later a little bit. But Strava is really popping right now. I think they also secured another funding round, and it's really, really growing. And they were always very community driven and very cautious about when and how to introduce new features and all that. But basically, if you were the CEO of Strava, do you think it would be smart to just implement some physical touch points? Like, let's say some person has a premium license, like, I don't know, maybe $100 a year. And then you send them, if they do 100 activities, you send them like a letter or like a postcard of like, hey, thanks for being a member. Some physical touch point?
I think in general, physical touch points are really a great idea. But I remember in the 2000s, I cooperated with a portal that was called Party.de. I think they did a bit like you did in your very early days of your career. They did photos of nightlife, and they were very popular. They had millions of hits per month. And I asked these guys, why are you not doing events yourself? Why don't you capitalize on the brand by just selling tickets, etc.? And they said like, well, some of the guys that are actually visiting our website, you don't really want to see them. And this might sound as a very harsh thing, etc. So it's not the same thing, digital and physical. And what we see currently, we are also working with a coach, and this coach is currently building a coaching product. And then you could ask yourself, so why do you do this if you can charge a couple of £100 an hour? And the reality is that a lot of her clients actually say, I feel more at ease in actually talking to a virtual coach or even chatting with a coach than actually talking to a human being, be it in a video call, or even worse, like in a physical situation, like we do it now. So
wow.
I think a lot of things have changed. So I'm personally a great fan of this cross-media thing. Like you do something and then you get something unexpected, like a letter or a call even or so. But I think the latest trend is actually just rather stay digital and more cocooning than ever.
Do you think also like this asynchronous communication in general?
I'm not a researcher, but when I look at my kids and sometimes they have a problem and they need to decide in a group of friends where to go out. And we as parents, we ask them, why don't you just call them to clarify the problem? It takes you a minute. And they don't even get the idea. Like, I can't call them. So why can't you call them? Well, I might disturb them. What do you mean by disturbing? You just call them and you just basically talk to them a minute and you sort out where to meet tonight. And this is a not existing concept in their world. You don't call to solve a problem. Or you don't
Camilo, are you a
conference call.
Camilo, are you a call person or you're like a text person?
I take pride in being a little old school.
Okay, then Camilo,
when they answer, they're like, "Why are you calling me?" So you're right.
Yeah, Camilo is having us with the podcast, so and he's definitely just that. I see the same, and especially like our team in the German company, it's like I would say like average age is like maybe 24 or so. It's the same thing, but the first thing you learn at BDX is how to make a call. because that gets shit solved, right?
Yeah.
You gotta call your client, you gotta call your that person, and I think that what people are afraid of is like this backlash, or like you don't know what to answer and not being spontaneous or whatever. Because if you just text back and forth, you can think your answer through all the time. And now you just let's say you're going on a date, right? And your girl texts you like, "Hey, I can do whatever." Then you just put it into ChatGPT and it's like, "Hey, I'm hooking up with that lady. What's a good answer for me to get her to the dinner?" And so then the guy does that and she does that. And in the end, it's like all bullshit. So I think it's so stupid. I think you should go out and actually talk to people. And you only learn if you get that, if you get like backlash or negative feedback, and you only grow through that, huh?
Yeah, I think resilience against or with criticism and negative feedback is very, very important if you want to become a leader. And that's actually what Mitali, our coach, mentioned. She said that people are very afraid of getting negative feedback, but that's the only way you learn things. If you make a mistake and nobody tells you, or nobody tells you how to do it better, then there's absolutely zero improvement. Then you are a kind of like autodidactic person. You always learn by yourself, but you don't learn social behavior or leadership by yourself. There's so many textbooks about leadership. So why don't we have great leaders in every single company? And we have very few of them. And the reason is very simple. Just by reading it doesn't make you a great leader.
You actually got to do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. But I'm super interested how that's changing. And the question is always like, how as a company, especially as you're working with apps and a lot of chats and stuff like this, how can you capitalize on that? Like on that, like doubling down on that trend. Because one thing is, I think probably you can't change society, or you need a lot of impact and a lot of acquisitions to do that. But how can you kind of capitalize on that trend?
Well, I think it's an automatic capitalization, because everything gets more and more digital, and so there'll be more and more digital products, and so this will be automatic. But the interesting thing I wanted to touch on is on the leadership. I think when I look at our company, it has changed a lot. When we started the company, we were basically 3 white German guys. Nowadays, we are 45 nations of all ethnicities and a lot of different religions, and we're 500. So at let's say 25 to 50, we were able to steer more or less everybody. We knew everybody in the company. We knew every project, where it stands, if it's in danger of, let's say, running out of budget or running out of time, or both. So those things happen. And nowadays, it is, I barely know, let's say, 20% of all our projects, where they stand, etc. And it's a much more indirect way of leadership. So for me, it was very, very tough to let go, actually, on the detailed knowledge, and to reckon that I cannot actually work with people directly on a day-to-day basis to make them grow as a leader, but realize that preparation of an all-hands meeting all of a sudden is so important, what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. And this was very difficult, actually. I didn't get very well along with it for at least a year or 2 or 3.
Okay. At some point, I want to build from BDX and New Trend Society. I want to grow it to $100 million company. And probably, if you want to do that, you need to adapt this kind of leadership style, right? And my wife calls me a control freak. I say I just like to be informed. What is a thing I need to change to grow as a leader, or to learn from you?
I think actually I'm probably the opposite. I like to delegate a lot. And I don't control enough, actually. But delegation without control is actually called anarchy. And and it is even, I think it is worth delegating without control or feedback loops than actually being a control freak. So I think keep your control freak thing. I think the only recommendation I can give is actually try to work with young people and train them or educate them or help them grow in your leadership style. And then you've got all the foundations for a great company. You can just not You cannot rush it. But if you build on internal people, you've got the right, recipe for growing the company. We learned with everybody, we grew internally. We were far more successful than actually with external hires. So on external hires, you probably have, I don't know, a 50-50 ratio. Works or it doesn't. But with the younger people, helping to grow the organization is a very good thing because you will be able to replicate and multiply your own leadership style. And I think controlling is good because controlling is what secures quality. And actually, it rings a bell. Like we have talked a lot about AI, and I am actually I've been trained as a consultant, so I'm a great fan of the Pareto 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So 20% of the effort and bam, get to 80% of the results and then just go fast.
Yeah.
But actually, and it has helped me my entire life actually in starting things and then obviously handing them over, delegating them, and other people were completing the tasks. But if you look at AI, this is actually no longer a valid strategy because AI is able to get to 80% of the result in even less time than the 20%. Because if you look at what, for example, if you are in a fund or if you are in M&A, etc., they basically, a lot of the M&A guys I know are no longer hiring juniors because they say the market research that took a junior in 2 years ago, probably a week or two, is now done by ChatGPT and others specialized on let's say market research. It's done in 2 hours or 24 hours. So I think it's the vice versa thing. So you cannot become a great successful whatever marketeer, developer, or whatever if you only aim for the 80% because that's what AI is able to do. You have to aim for the 100%, and that's actually where your control freak thing comes in. And I think this is keep it because this is very, very important. Because
once again, I'm not a control freak. Just people say that.
All the guys who are happy with 80% might actually risk their jobs in the next 5 to 10 years. I think only what is really, really not replicable by AI at the moment is like the last 20%, the real good quality, the creativity, etc. But the standard stuff will all be done by AI.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree fully. In parts, I agree, especially with AI, that it's able to get to 80% super quick. But I think in generally speaking, let's say like all business tasks you have, right? Let's say there's some admin stuff and this and that. And also as a CEO, you have a lot of different tasks. Some are more hard, some are more easy, and you have to do them. But still, I think some of them, you just got to do them yourself at 80%. And also you got to enable your team. So let's say I have my team working on a presentation, right? And of course, we need like our internal 100% benchmark, but I also want them to do it quick. I can't have them to work on that like for a week. I need like a good result in like 2 hours, 4 hours. And then when we know we're going towards the right direction, that there have to be like certain check-in points, right? At some point, like, oh, are we going towards the right direction? Is that actually legit? How's the feedback on of the client or so? So let's say, let me give you an example. We had a call today with Sixt, the rental car company, and they are known for this bold marketing, right? And so we just came up with some smart ideas, and they actually really liked them. So I'm super happy about that. But still, it was very important that we presented them this right in the first stage. That was the first call we had, right? And they were like, already, nice, let's go. And they about to post one of the ideas already tomorrow. So it's like super quick. And then you know, oh, are we going towards the right direction? If not, you can adjust before it's too late. It's probably a little bit like if you go hiking and you have a 20-mile hike, every 3 or 4 miles, you should check in and check if you're still on the track.
Yeah, I agree.
And if not, you can adjust, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but it's tough, and it's also a fun challenge. So let's go back to when you had these 1 million users on that running app, and then figured out, oh, maybe we just sell apps ourselves, or like the development, right?
Yeah, it was a very difficult moment because my two co-founders. It was the baby of my two co-founders, and we realized it would be very difficult to make money with it, and all three of us were actually not prepared to run a company with, let's say, 5 employees or so. We were aiming for bigger. And then we decided to do a pivotal change and become basically a software developer or a digital agency. And the reason for that is we couldn't actually 100% agree on the product management. We were all three not really runners. One guy was a bicycle rider. He always wanted splits. I never wanted splits. I wanted the auto pause at the traffic lights and that kind of stuff. And our initial thing was be a multi-purpose and multi-sports app. And in my opinion, it doesn't really work. I mean, if somebody does it relatively right, it's probably Strava who does it for biking and for running. But
they also got a huge backlash. I think they started in biking, right?
Yes.
And when they added running to the app, the bike community got mad. They were so so stressed, and they're like, why you guys are not loyal to the community? It's sellout and all that. And I mean, it was way more niche down back then, but they had to do a lot of work to keep the community kind of like calm and to trust them, right? It's wild.
Yeah, I think at a certain amount of users, it might even be more useful to split it, actually. Okay. And because then you can focus on the features that really make a difference.
Yeah. Okay, so then you did that pivot and said like, hey, from now on, every big brand can come to us and we're building your app.
Yeah, we started basically with a very famous hospitality app, Trivago. That was one of the first 2 apps that we ever built. Yeah, the first version of it that was in 2010, I think, or 11. And it was fantastic. It was a fantastic success. I think in 6 weeks, the whole app actually recapitalized the investment into the software.
Did you get paid like by on a project basis, or did you also get some company stuff?
Unfortunately, we got paid by a project basis on a fixed price. And the price was ridiculously low. It was below 100K at the time. Yeah. And I mean, they made millions in the first quarter.
They're now valued, I don't know, maybe $10 billion or something like that?
I think the last number that I got was about 300 to 500 million bookings over the app alone. So it definitely is a very good channel for them. Wow. And they were one of the first ones. And the other one was actually for the German chef Alfons Schubeck.
Oh, okay.
So we did basically all the cooking apps for all the German chefs like Johann Lafer, Alfons Schubeck, Cornelia Poletto, and
how did you get into that?
Actually, a very good friend of ours was a publisher of cookbooks, and that he actually got us into that.
Oh, okay, nice.
And somebody who's been very popular in those days, Ibrahim Efsan as well. He actually built the first version of the apps. But it's tough to say. But the background of the app was actually a white and red. It was looking like a tablecloth, okay. And the style wasn't really very. It wasn't very well designed.
Sophisticated.
So actually, it was relatively easy to convince the publisher to change the supplier.
Okay, that's interesting. Nowadays, how do you convince a big client? Like, it's you have a lot of big clients. You have, I think, Deutsche Bahn. You have Tagesschau. You have US Bank. A couple more. BMW.
Mercedes. A lot of car manufacturers.
Wow.
Banks. Targo Bank.
How do you get one of these clients?
Well, it's persistency, and I think it is also network. I think. What I tend to say is the first million revenues for any startup or agency is probably the most difficult one. Mm-hmm. And the larger you get, it seems to get more difficult. But actually, in my opinion, it isn't. Because the references you have, the reputation you have in the industry is quite good. I think, let's take the example of, I think 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to go into Android Automotive. At the time, a lot of car manufacturers were experimenting with their own technologies. Like
so Android Automotive is if you don't have an iPhone and then you connect your...
actually, what it does is there's 2 technologies, AOSP, Android Open Source project, and it is basically used to to deliver in-car head unit applications for infotainment. So everything
like
that's
Apple
not
CarPlay for
self-driving
Android?
car. No, it doesn't need a phone actually. The app
it's like
sits
a
in the
whole
car.
operating system.
The app sits in the car, and the operating system is Android, and it is more and more used by more and more car manufacturers for anything which is not automated driving. So I tend to say everything that's right of the steering wheel or on the right side of the middle console, and we decided that this might be the right way to go. So we invested heavily. And we started working for Mercedes with it. Then we started. Now we are a very large supplier to BMW in that sense, and now we also work for a couple of truck manufacturers. And that kind of strategic foresight has always proven very, very important. Our industry is very much driven by technology, and it's not like websites. Websites have stayed JavaScript and some kind of like backend for the last 15 years. So actually, in website development, technology has not evolved that much as it has probably in apps, because operating systems have changed, devices have changed, basically from smartphone to tablet to a smart TV, and now for screen, commonly called the head unit of the car as the next big frontier for media. So for us, it was always important to stay on top of those technological trends and to be able to capitalize on them and be the innovative partner for our large clients.
Okay, wow, that's cool. That's cool. And was there like any? Can you walk us through like the revenue growth of the company? Like, was there like any year where like really was out competing everything or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
like just very short, like just the number.
As I mentioned, it looks a bit like a hockey curve. The first 4 years we had 800,000, 1.6 million, 2.6 million, 3-point-something million, 5-point-something million, etc., etc. And
slow growth.
Exactly. And then we took a real leap. That was, I think, I think that was 2016, from 6 million to 10 million. That was the first big step. That was actually probably when the app economy really was in full flight, and everybody thought they would need an app. And then we had a second really big leap. That was when we won Mercedes as our new client and became Supplier of the Year immediately, and that grew our revenue from 16 to 20 million. And then it continued during COVID. We grew quite a lot, and then there was another big jump from 25 to 30 million, and then from 30 to 35, etc. But as I'm saying, the larger you get, the larger the team gets, and the larger the projects get, you can actually handle. So obviously, losing a big project is never easy to compensate. But we made sure that none of our clients, and we never had the situation where any of our clients was above 15% of our revenues, and that was very healthy. So we did not stumble on the growth path.
Wow, you've been always a very good advisor to me ever since I met you. So thank you for that, by the way. And but also I remember one thing you told me last year. When we were sitting together, I think it was actually the first time we met here, or the first time we met here in this office. He said to me, "Hey, think about marketing efficiency." And it was already 2024, late 2024. A lot of companies had shrinking budgets, or like were more cautious about spending, and like the good and easy years like 2021, 2, and 3, like where everybody just threw money away. Were kind of like gone, and now it shifted to people are more cautious on how they spend their money. Can you emphasize a little bit on that thought of marketing efficiency?
Yeah, I think everybody probably knows this famous saying. I think it's attributed to Henry Ford, saying like everybody knows that 50% of the marketing spending is wasted, but nobody knows which 50%. And I think this is probably true. So I probably don't have the holy grail for marketing either, but one of the things I can say, a lot of people actually thought that performance marketing is the holy grail and just put every dollar you have into performance marketing. But look at what happened to Nike. The former CEO put a lot of money actually into performance marketing, and that helped spike sales for a year, but he neglected all investments into brands. I think everybody knows the story. The CEO is no longer with us Nike, and they brought on board somebody else to fix the stuff. So nowadays, I would say, if I would have to save 50% of my marketing budget, I would probably only save 20% on the brand side, because if you damage your brand or if you don't grow your brand reputation, it takes years to get back to where you've been. I would probably save on a lot of media, like traditional media, where the outcome is actually not really measurable and we don't see any impact.
If you would be the CEO of Nike, what would you kill?
I would kill a lot of print advertising, actually. It's tough to say, but it is unproven reach, and the reach is diminishing month by month. And I think the pricing is exaggerated to what it delivers in terms of media value.
What do you think about out of home?
It's a good question. Out of home in a lot of countries is still growing, as it's a different touch point. I think you still have out of home, you still have a media breach, so you cannot directly call to action. But seemingly it works because a lot of people are investing into it. I would invest in it for brand, but I'm not a media expert. So, but I think I would keep it.
I believe out of home is a huge opportunity, but you got to be cautious on how to spend it and where to spend it. Probably you don't have to shut down the whole city and get every single billboard here, unless you're an insurance lawyer in LA. Then you can do that. But if you want to be frugal with your budget, get a couple of very good out of home billboards, and then use them online. Like put some influencers in front of it. Add some digital touch points, but people, you just need like the top 3 out of home billboard spots here in LA or in New York or so. If people see like, oh, you were in Times Square, people know it's legit, it's print, it's or like not print, but it's physical, and then the rest you can do digital. So, but I think that's where you kind of like still create the buzz and the trust and this kind of like viral moment. And the rest can be online.
Totally agree. I think there's been a case here recently. Probably not everybody knows that Times Square at midnight for, I think, half or 1 minute, all ads are actually transformed into artwork. And somebody actually, it's just, if you ever are in New York in the next couple of months,
try to avoid
at
Times
midnight,
Square.
Times Square. It's really amazing because it changes from the variety of billboards and videos, and it becomes artwork. And some of it is better, some of it is a bit boring. But somebody actually took that idea and for a minute actually basically bought all the ads. And so it looked like at midnight. And it is a very, very big impact. I think this got very viral as well. But there's one thing in out of home, there's a very nice anecdote I can say. I think it was for a TV show that we once worked with. And they were also doing outdoor posters. So, but the media agency, what they did is, knowing that the CEO at the time was Anke Schäferkort, they actually knew where she lived, and they basically plastered the entire way from her home to RTL headquarters with those ads. So probably, it's a common thing actually, that the CEO thinks like, wow, my campaign is really cool. It's basically everywhere. It's everywhere. And the same happened in the old days, or probably is even the same thing now. When you have an artist who is actually, let's say, I don't know, AC/DC is playing in Munich, then typically people are putting up a lot of posters on the way when they drive the artist actually to the hotel. So they think like, wow, the entire city is plastered with our posters and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of a lot of tricks in out of home that you need to be aware of.
I think some running brands, I'm big in running, do the same as like Hoka and On Running. They have the same here. Like, on my running route, it's all full, but I got to do some research and run some other routes.
They probably know it's the Venice Beach Club, and they know that's where the runners are. That's where the clients are. And it's not just clients. It's like probably emotional leaders, and they, like if you're a runner, you tell your friends like, the new whatever Hoka shoe is probably with the best cushioning or whatever. Yeah. Best carbon plate.
Wow. Okay, that's actually smart. I'm gonna try to implement that at some point. If you had to start from scratch, where do you see opportunities right now? Would you do another agency? Would you do a product? What would you do?
Well, if you do an agency and you're a project company, the holy grail is the product company. So in my entire life, I've always been a project guy. So if I would start something new, I would probably try a product. Like it would probably be software as a service.
Because of the challenge or because you see the
Because of the challenge, yeah. I know I can do project, I know I can do agencies, and I could set up an AI agency or whatever. But I think my personal view is where we are now with Appsfactory is we've gone beyond the tipping point. So it's more rewarding for us to continue build what we have. And we create probably more impact, more everything, more shareholder value, more everything. If we continue our path and add capacities or skills to what we have now, then just building a new agency from scratch. So if I would do anything new, I would go into product. For the challenge.
What kind of product?
I think I would go into B2B SaaS. So I don't think about it, so I don't have any idea.
I mean, you can do it with some no code on Replit right now.
Yeah, but that's the problem. I think and that's probably why I'm not doing it also, not just because I really like my job, but also if you look at AI, there's a saying or there's a prediction that AI will kill a lot of the B2B and a lot of the SaaS business because you just don't need let's take a very big unicorn in Germany, Personio.
Yep.
Like in the end, it's
so
just
it's a software, HR software, a little bit like Gusto here in the US or
Workday.
Yeah, Workday. Yeah,
and basically what it does, it's a file. It's a file of your personal data in HR, and it is an implemented workflow. But if you look at what you can do now with AI agents, then a lot of the functionalities can be built really easily and customized to what you need. So, for example, just say like build me a database where everybody with the front end can enter their holiday requests and notify me if there are any overlaps, that kind of stuff. This is probably built in a no code or whatever prompt coding environment relatively easily. And I think you can replicate it. The guys at Personio would not agree. But you can probably replicate a lot of the functionalities, not at the scalability, but for a single company of 50 to 100 headcount, you can probably replicate that in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think so too. I talked to a friend of mine from Germany. Shout out Dennis Oderwald. They are in software and they build a lot of shops and run the infrastructure for all these Höhle der Löwen, Shark Tank companies, right? They need all the infrastructure. Like at some point where it's on national television, they have like 200,000 store visitors and all that, like the servers and stuff. And he said they stopped working with Google Workspace and Dropbox and all that, and they starting to build everything by themselves. Mm-hmm. On one hand, because they just have like 2 or 3 developers in-house, like just who are dedicated to kind of like internal stuff. But on the other side, they say it's easy. At some point, these fees get insane, and probably if you look from a profitability perspective, like also from an agency like BDX, we're paying every year hundreds of thousands of dollars of recurring costs of Asana and Google Workspace and this and that, and it adds up, right?
Absolutely.
How do you do that at Appsfactory? Like if like everybody comes up with a new tool and everybody wants to have like, oh, can I have, I don't know if that exists, GitHub Premium or whatever, like Canva and Miro and this and all these kind of like silent software things that come in. How do you get a hold of that?
I think our license cost is about 1.2 million. I think we pay alone 300K to Atlassian for Jira Confluence, which we need as a professional project management tool, also to exchange like information and designs and whatever with our clients. But we sometimes take really harsh decisions. We, for example, decided to phase out Slack, which was a sacrifice for our developers. It was a big turmoil because our CTO Rolf actually said, look, we're paying about 100K a year to Slack. And the prices increased since Salesforce acquired them. Now we thought actually Google Chat, which is in the workspace license, is offering probably 90% of the functionalities that Slack has. So we're trying to get rid of, we are evaluating the portfolio of our tools regularly. And we have a kind of like internal IT team that policies that we actually get rid of seats that we don't use. We get rid of, we make sure that if clients are using our seats that we regularly notify them or make them pay for it. So that, again, reduces the costs. But actually, we saved 100K on Slack, and we probably spent now 100K on Microsoft Copilot. So it's an eternal battle.
Wow. But how do you? I think this is so fascinating, right? And because guys, if you listen to the podcast right now, and thanks, big shout out to everyone who watches us on YouTube, still growing there. You have to imagine like a lot of people have like small companies, or like let's say an agency like us, it's like a couple of $1,000s. So, but you guys with these 10 offices worldwide and with 50 million revenues, it's so immense. It's huge amount of money, right?
It indeed is, but I'm kind of like an old school guy. So my first agency, Minik, actually, I had an operations team who was setting up Microsoft Exchange servers and that kind of stuff. So I had about 10 guys who were just sitting in one room with hardware. So we were ordering hardware and they were setting them up like in a physical way. They were putting software on these blades, and then they were taking the company car to the hosting center, and then they were actually putting those blade servers into the rack, and then we fired them up. So it has become much, much easier nowadays to set up a company with all the tools you have, with all the cloud environment. So I'm worried about the cost, agree, but if you compare it to founding a company 20 years ago, it was much more difficult. Today, I mean, the scalability is enormous. You know, if you have a really good idea for a B2B or SaaS product, you probably need 5 to 10 developers with the aid of AI, and then you can go global, basically.
Wow. I want to come back a little bit to your founder story and the growth and all that. What would you say are the top 3 things you need in your job today that makes you outstanding as a CEO?
That's a very good question. I think number one is probably, and I'm talking about priority, is probably strategic insight. So we always spend a lot of time to understand where the market is going. And we've never been, let's say, I'll give you one example. We've always carefully looked at technology. For example, these, beacon technology. You remember that was probably 2010, 2012 or so. Everybody said like, wow, we're going to do indoor navigation and beacons are going to be everywhere and this and that. We looked at the technology. We said like, no, it's not going to work. It's not precise enough. And there's a lot of problems around managing these beacons. Even if you glue them somewhere, then they run on battery. Then the battery's out. And if you want to have like a shopping center with beacons, then obviously you have to manage all that. And you need another app which shows you which beacon has which kind of battery and this and that. So we never believed into it. And as everybody knows, it hasn't become a big business. I think there's one player globally now who furnishes all the shopping centers. So this is number one. We spend a lot of time, I think on average, just as the MDs, we spent over 10 days just offsite strategy in the entire year, which is quite a lot for us. I think the next one is probably team building. I think we are, 85% of our, or 80% of our cost is staff, is personal cost. So we need to make sure we have the best talent, and everybody of us invests every single week at least 1 to 2 hours for recruiting interviews. That actually makes sure that we keep the quality and we keep the mindset and we keep the culture as much as possible as it was 10 years ago. And the third one is probably empathy, in the sense that this is not a machine. This is it's not a family, but is probably like a sports team. And to motivate people, you need to be empathetic, and that's the key thing. Maybe motivation is more important than empathy, but I don't want to separate the two. I think they go hand in hand, and I think those are the two critical success factors in my mind.
Let's talk a little bit about marketing, and we talked already about marketing efficiency. But where do you see trends going? What is the thing that you see? Also, as you're traveling so much, as you see all these different conferences and all that, what's a trend that you see that everybody else misses?
I think whoever I speak to, I think there's a revival of branding. I think brand is becoming more and more important. I think in the past 10 years, through the growth of online, programmatic and everything, and I'm not talking about technology or so, programmatic and online selling and this and SEO and everything has become really, really important. And it helped selling a lot, etc. But when I look at the strategic changes that we see in the next couple of years, probably getting to a more conversational interface, etc. So a lot of the things that people spend a lot of money, so maybe SEO changes into conversational SEO and all that kind of stuff. But the core thing where people will actually buy your stuff is going to be the brand. And the other one is actually the post-sale caretaking, the way you treat customers after they actually bought your stuff. And obviously, if you have a low price good, then you can't invest as much as you can, for example, if somebody buys a Bentley or so. But if you look at the stuff with luxury car manufacturers, what they're doing, that you have I think Land Rover calls their sales agents in the shops now, they call them concierge, and they will actually call you, and they will actually organize a test drive, and once you've done it, then they will call you like, how are you doing, and this and that. I think this and this is also part of brand. So for me, branding becomes in a more conversational marketing world more and more important.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It makes sense. I think the whole podcast built to that. So we started with like, oh, AI makes everything easier, and it's way easier to start a new company. If you want to start a new oatmeal company, whatever, you can just get your supplier here online. There's Alibaba, build an app with Replit and all that. But the operations and the product, that's a differentiator, and what people think when they think of your brand, and that you are top of mind when they think, oh, I want to get this oatmeal. That's one thing. And the other thing is like, if you're a recurring customer, that they treat you like they should, like a king or a queen, and not like shit, like, oh yeah, he's a customer or they're a customer, whatever. I think to be honest, it's one of my biggest mistakes I made when I started BDX. I was always about growth. And by the way, this changed 4 years ago. I made this mistake 4 years ago when we started growing. But I was always chasing these big new clients. And then I didn't take care of the recurring clients and our bread and butter. And then at one time we had a huge client, and it was a $20,000 retainer. And we lost them because I didn't take care. And I remember I was on vacation that day and on Ibiza, and the CEO called me. It was a $500 million company, right? And he called me and was like, Benjamin, we got to talk. No offense, but we got to stop working with you. And at that day, I realized customer success is the most important thing. You got to have all of it. You got to have operational excellence. You got to have a good product and all that. But in the end, you got to make sure your customer is happy, right?
100% agree. I mean, when we started, I think we were hunters, like hunting for the next client. And we had to become farmers in the sense that taking care of your clients is far more important than actually hunting for new ones. And this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that everybody does when you found an agency or whoever. I think if you don't treat your existing customers well, I mean, you can grow by 20% every year with new customers, but if you lose 10 or 20% of your existing revenue, then it's a zero-sum game.
Yeah, that's wild. I have a couple questions here. We have a category, or like three something. We call this a build, break, and boost. So what's the thing? And it's a quick question thing, right? What's the thing you're currently building?
The US office. That's the biggest challenge for us at the moment.
What is a thing that recently broke? The thing where you failed?
The US office. So this is definitely a big challenge, and it's the biggest challenge I've had in the last probably 10 years to become this, to make the business a significant business in the US.
And what's the thing that boosting you right now, where you get inspiration, where you get a lot of ideas from it, where you're thriving on?
I'm super intrinsically motivated. I think I don't really need a booster of motivation. I like what I do, and whenever there's a new pitch, an RFQ coming in or so, I have never been so much a competitor in sports actually, but I've always been a competitor in business. So I don't know, I can't explain it, but when we do a pitch, we want to win it, and we do everything to win it. But this is basically what gives me thrill, and yeah, obviously I tend to lose also often, like everybody. And I try to keep hanging on the wins and think about the wins and to get over the losses.
What's the best advice you ever got?
My favorite statement is, if everything is under control, you're simply not going fast enough. This is from Mario Andreotti, former Formula One champion. And this is a bit how the company works. And some of my fellow team members say, like, this is really tiring. And the funniest,
it probably is,
because and funniest statement probably of one of my two co-founders is that multitasking, Alex, is great, but it's not always fun. So I tend to do two things at the same time, and I even jump when I speak to people in my thoughts. So I stretch their tolerance quite a lot in terms of multitasking.
You seem to have. How long do you do Appsfactory now? Like 15?
We're in our 16th year.
Yeah. So you're 16 years doing this job, and you're still very happy. And I know, or you seem, at least you seem happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know there's always days where you like your job more and less, and phases and ups and downs and all that. But how do you design your job that it's fun to you?
Actually, to be honest, it's as you said, it's not always fun. I think you have to be a competitive person and intrinsically motivated to survive those 16 years of an agency. Because like today, I had a really bad day. There were so many people actually telling me like, oh, this is a problem and this is a problem. And by the way, why are you in LA and why are you not in our office in Leipzig or Munich or wherever? Because all the other guys are on holidays and everybody's on holidays and what are you doing in LA? Are you on holidays as well? No, I'm not. So I'm working. But which is difficult to believe when, like, my fellow colleagues we're in Leipzig, and I think like, wow, LA is great, and it's.
I mean, they only see the picture of you at I don't know
at this podcast,
at the podcast, or probably at the Santa Monica Pier during sunset or so, but they don't know that you got up at 5 a.m. and you did your German calls, probably your German emails, and then the second shift starts. True. Right?
Yeah, that's it. So my advice is just if you want to do it, if you want to become an entrepreneur, then you have to love it. You have to be intrinsically motivated.
But still, I know you and your co-founders. You also have we didn't even name them, right?
Actually, I co-founded the company with Rolf Kluge, our CTO, and Roman Belter, our COO.
Yeah, and I know you guys are also. I think if you're a founding team, it's very important that you are very close together. And this kind of like camaraderie helps, especially in tough times. And you guys still go to like fun places. You go skiing here and there, do like retreats and stuff like that. That's the thing I would love to talk just a little bit before we wrap up here, because I think it's so important. But sometimes it's hard to understand if you tell it to, I don't know, somebody, as you said, like somebody from your office, regular employee or so. And then they're like, oh, these guys flew to Aspen and having fun and doing heli skiing or whatever. how do you, but it's so important. It's crucial for the company, but nobody gets it. How do you explain that?
Well, first of all, I stopped posting on Instagram anyway.
Okay.
Which I think is, for me, is pretty useless because I'm at an age where I don't have to show off anymore. But the thing is, I think everybody trusts us in the sense that what we're doing is good for the company. And as you said, like when I started this business, and there were three of us. Three is a difficult number because you could always be two against one. But luckily, actually, we have all three of us don't have a big ego, which is very important. And the other thing is, all three of us are as ambitious as the other ones. And whenever it gets difficult, I know that I can count 100% on Rolf and Roman to pull through. And we've proven this. We had crisis in this company as well. And so I can trust them. But you are absolutely right. It's more than a business. If you stay together that long, you have to have like breakouts. And in the past years, we have not probably done enough breakouts to really bond. So, but we will probably, hopefully, have more time in the coming years. But honestly, since 2020, we're in constant crisis mode. Let's face it, in the industry. First Corona, then recession, now AI. So there's challenges over and over.
Wow. Inspiring story, Alex. Thank you so much for all these insights. Is there any question I should have asked you that I didn't ask?
I think you've done a really great job, Penny.
I have so many more questions, and that's why we hang out all the time, and we also gonna get dinner afterwards. So if there's some interesting stuff, we're gonna add it to the podcast here. If people want to learn more about you, they can check you out on LinkedIn, right?
Just contact me on LinkedIn. Happy to answer.
Yeah, and also if anybody needs a good app, you're probably the one to ask.
Absolutely, this is the right place, Appsfactory.
Yeah, thank you so much for all these insights. I think it's an amazing, inspiring story, and yeah, let's continue this let's continue this conversation at some point.
Thank you for having me.
Nice.